If you've ever visited any of the larger towns or cities in Ireland, there's a chance you may have encountered the Hare Krishnas on the street. With their saffron robes and shaved heads, they make for an arresting sight. But while most of us might look on curiously for a moment and then continue on our way, a small minority are intrigued enough to find out more. In 1993, Helen Flood and Beryl Walsh were both 15 when they first encountered the Hare Krishnas on the streets of Dublin.
We heard drums and the cymbals approaching, and we're like, what's that? And next thing, there's these guys in saffron dresses jumping up and down, and they just looked crazy. They had shaved heads and little ponytails, and they were singing, and they just seemed so happy and just really, they just looked stoned, didn't they? Just really out of it, but really, really happy. And we're like, oh my God, what's a story with them? We want some of that. And some of them were quite cute too. We thought,
really cute.
Yeah.
Propelled by a mixture of teenage curiosity and hormones, they followed directions they were given to the temple on Dame Street.
The minute you went in, even to this day, you can remember the smell of it. And then, kind of even the music playing in the background and the books. Everything was so different, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and the pictures up on the wall. And then you go to the back. So there's a shop at the front and they're selling, the incense, the books. And then at the back is the temple and they've big picture up. And then cushions and everyone sits on the floor and sings.
Although neither of the girls had any interest in religion, they were drawn towards this exotic subculture, which was unlike anything they had seen before.
The chanting, the dancing, you kind of got into a trance or something nearly when you were chanting. And then the teachings was so different. The guys, and it was quite admirable that they were all very good looking in their early 20s and they'd given up everything to do this.
But even the food, everything about the food was different. It was spices that you'd never heard of and different dishes you'd never heard of. The dress had what they wore, what the women wore, things you'd never seen before. Especially not in Dublin then.
Yeah.
I remember that the Catholic religion, it was you go to heaven or you go to hell, and that's it. And hell, you're just damned forever. And if you go to hell, you never get back, and that's it. Whereas the Harrys, their God wasn't so evil. And okay, they have a hell, but at least you can get back, you know. It's like you're not damned forever if you do something bad. So I remember thinking, that's cool. I can roll with this.
And the reincarnation as well.
Yeah. Not when you're dead, you're dead. You can keep going.
Yeah.
And you might see people you love then too.
The girls started attending classes in the temple regularly and quickly became obsessed with the Hare Krishnas.
I remember those early days, as soon as we got out of the temple, you just could never get enough, ever. And you'd always be talking about the class and singing, or at the end of classes you'd be trying to hang around or wash up, help, do anything around the temple just so you could stay longer.
Yeah, we'd always be singing, and we'd leave the temple and dance down the street, singing Hare Krishna at the top of our voices.
Through the city centre? Yeah,
and even in Lucan, everyone thought we were a bit mad. We found out after, because we'd just be singing and dancing everywhere we went.
We'd be sitting in my house and you'd just be banging things together to, like, the instruments to make the noises. But we'd actually go out wearing sheets, like, because we didn't have the saris, and we'd get a bed sheet and wrap it around us and do that in our local area. So either we're very confident or just absolutely batshit crazy, but whatever it was, I think it was just maybe the youth as well. You don't care, you know, it's just all about you. You're the centre of the universe. And our whole gang, they thought we were crazy, but they definitely accepted it, because a good few of our group came and visited the temple. No, they accepted that we were a part of it.
Yeah, it was like a drug that you just wanted more and more and more.
It definitely was.
Except for there was no drugs in it.
No. I don't know, we were disappointed briefly, maybe, because you couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah, so then we thought they put it in their food. They had to put drugs in the food. But then, like, after a few days of eating the food and we weren't stoned, we figured out they didn't actually take drugs at all.
Yeah. Yeah, that they're actually quite strict around stuff like that. So there's no intoxications at all, even tea or coffee, no caffeine. So yeah, they were very strict.
This strictness did not put off the girls, and when they turned 18, they moved up to the main temple in Fermanagh to become nuns.
The official title is actually, for men is brahmachari, they're the ones that wear the saffron and they're celibate, and then the women is brahmacharinis, and that's the women who are just, celibate too. Also in that time as students, so you're learning about their philosophy, and you're living in the temple under the guidance of like a temple president or a guru, a spiritual master, and then you live that life until either you get married or you just stay living that life, isn't it? But it was recommended for women to get married.
There'd be no TV, no radio. The only music you'd listen to is Hare Krishna music. Yeah. And you may watch like some Hare Krishna DVDs there.
And read their books.
Only their books.
So you'd have no idea of news.
As a result of the isolation on the island and the all-consuming nature of their devotions, the girls quickly forgot about their previous lives.
I think once we moved to the temple, we really lost touch with all our friends.
We abandoned everyone.
Yeah, we just left them. Just one day up and moved to the temple.
And family. I left family.
Yeah, like I was always kind of close with my family. But there was a few years where I literally had nothing to talk to them about. They were like strangers to me.
Yeah. They were like sinners, though. I remember if you did go home from the temple and they'd be eating meat at the table.
They were like an animal, ripping an animal
you'd
apart.
actually see that they were like animals there. And I wouldn't sit at the table. I wouldn't use cutlery or plates that meat had been on. I'd bring my own food. And then in the end, you just wouldn't go home. It just wasn't worth it, you know. But there was definitely years where you'd be completely out of touch.
And when you did go home, you just want to talk about what's happening in the temple and about Krishna, but you'd never be interested in what's happening to anybody outside of that.
No.
After living on the island for 6 months, the girls moved back to Dublin. They spent the next few years visiting the temple and various festivals around Ireland. In the late 1990s, they began thinking about going to India.
You'd always hear about it into the temple, and then devotees would be coming back and forth, having gone to different main festivals. So you'd hear about it from them and how great a place it was. And a lot of their books feature India, don't they? All the stories of their gods took place in India.
In 1999, Helen and Beryl finally saved up the money and travelled to Vrindavan, where Krishna had spent his childhood days.
It was really colourful, but it was really different. And I was so homesick for the first 2 weeks. I think if I wasn't crying, I wanted to cry. And I was terrified of cows walking down the road and bulls walking down the road and monkeys everywhere. Because the monkeys were vicious.
Yeah, they're jumping. They definitely
They were really, really scary, and they were quite big. And then you'd had boars and then open sewers.
Indian men,
they were worse than the monkeys.
They were a hazard. Yeah.
So it was so different, and it did take me probably the first 2 weeks. I really hated it.
But you obviously loved it for a while, because after
I
did.
I did. I loved it.
And we got into the swing of things, and we had a different friend from London, Rajasana. She was staying there, and we used to meet her at the temple every morning, and we'd take part in like the morning singing things. But then we didn't want to stay for the class. We'd get bored, or the japa, the private chanting. So then we'd go into Loy Bazaar. That was the main kind of marketplace. So we'd jump on a cycle rickshaw, go in, and we'd go visit some of the other temples. And then on the way home, we get a sweet lassi. So it's like this yogurt drink. And that was our morning routine. It was so good. And then go back to our main temple for the next program then.
While in India, the women began to worry about their status as singletons.
We were looking out for men, because some of our friends back in Ireland were already associating, is what it's called when you're going out with someone in the intention of marrying. And they were way younger than us. They were like 15, 16. So we actually felt like we were really old, and we just turned 22 in India, but we felt like we were the grannies and we were going to be left on the shelf.
Yeah, 21, 22, we did feel really
no
old
one
then.
would want us.
Yeah.
So we definitely were wanting
And India would kind of instill that in you too.
Yeah, because the girls get married very young.
Yeah.
Soon, they began checking out the Indian devotees.
You'd see the different guys around the temple, the devotees, and I suppose because we were hanging out there quite a lot, we got to see certain ones, and
Dave Raj, I seen him passing by one day and I just thought, oh my God, he's beautiful.
yeah, he was.
And then KK came to me and said that
One of our friends,
one
KK.
of his friends asked, and I didn't know who he was, but she says, I'll point him out to you when we're going for dinner. And she pointed him out and I was like, oh my God, yeah. He's like
asked
so
if you were
beautiful.
interested, if you would be interested.
So that's how I got with him. And my first date was actually in my friend's apartment. She let me have it for a couple of hours. And we were chatting. It was so awkward.
And then I was put with Tarun. It was Dadu. I think he used to do the shoes. He was an older guy and they call him Dadu. That's just an affectionate term for someone who is older. I'm Bengali actually. And he asked about Tarun and if I'd be interested.
Within the Hare Krishna community in Vrindavan, there were strict conventions relating to the courting process.
You'd always have someone there. You would never meet them on your own. Like, we went with you guys one time too.
Yeah.
Me, Tarun, you and Dave, Reg, and we went out for the day. You would never go on your own.
Yeah, it wasn't like, dinner or anything. We were sitting chatting and he gave me a hug and a really awkward kiss at the end of it.
But because you're not allowed to spend that time together, you would get like a really bad name. And so you just, if you want to actually get to know them, you can't go out with them. So as a result, like, I was married 2 weeks after I met him.
Yeah, and I was married a month after.
Helen and Beryl lived in India for 12 months and then returned home with their new husbands.
It was great to see my parents. They came to the airport to meet me and I was bawling my eyes out because I actually got really homesick towards the end, and they were hugging me and I was really happy to get home and see the rest of my family. And then after about an hour or two I was ready to go back to India. It was just boring.
Everything just seemed grey. The roads, the skies, the buildings, the people, just everything. Yeah, life in India was easier.
Within a year of returning home, and within a month of each other, both women gave birth to daughters. But they soon left their husbands, both of whom had become abusive and violent. Now with less time on their hands as single mothers, Helen and Beryl gradually drifted away from the Hare Krishnas. But their experience had left an indelible mark, and they hope to revive their spiritual lives in the future.
I will definitely go back and live in India 6 months out of the year, in Vrindavan, hopefully, and get deeply into it. Yeah, when I can, when my kids are grown up, definitely. I love it. I love the way of life. I love when you're in it, and you're, especially I think when you're older too, I think you're freer in some way to just do your own thing, and just get on with it. So yeah, I'd love that. I'd love it. I love the philosophy.
I'm not so sure if I would want to get fully involved in it again. I definitely would like to go and stay in Vrindavan for some time. I guess then I would probably get back into it.
That's it. As it gradually went on, year after year, you would, of course, and then it'd be.
And
longer
it does
times.
have a lot of positives.
No, it really does. Of course, they're non-violence. They're ahimsa. That means non-violence. That way of life is really, really nice. The vegetarian thing.
Yeah, and the simple living.
The really simple living is
try
really
and live
nice.
off the land. And
and humility. They do teach that now. I don't know how many follow it, but it is nice, the humbleness of people, and just the non-attachment to material things, and it's a really nice teachings, definitely.